In this video, we review the Greek indicative verb suffixes. So at this point, we have now introduced every single form of the Greek indicative verbs and their endings. And what we're going to do here is review those different suffixes. We're going to do so in a couple different ways, by speaking and by writing. And at the end of the video, I'm going to give you a sort of master indicative verb chart for the endings. And this will be, one will be filled in and one will not be filled in. The one that is not filled in is for your own practice, and the one that is filled in is for your own reference. So when we look over at indicative verbs, we've seen this sort of list several times now in the semester of how different verbs are formed. And what we're going to be focusing in on here, if you see my cursor, is these different endings. And these different suffixes that you have memorized throughout the course of the semester. What we're going to do is be reviewing those so that when you come to verbs, when you come to indicative verbs, you sort of can recognize their person and number more quickly. And then also by noting what kind of suffix we have here, you can sort of work backwards to figure out what the parsing information is, namely the tense, the voice, the person, and the number. So we're going to start with the primary active suffixes. So these are the very first ones that we introduced: o, ace, a, min, te, usi. And what we're going to do first, as we have done, is speak them 3 different times, and then I'm going to have you write them. So have your whiteboard handy now. If you don't, go ahead and pause the lecture now and go and grab it. But we're going to speak through these 3 times, and then we're going to write them. And then we're going to do the same for the other 3 different forms of the suffix here. So right now we're dealing with the primary active suffixes. So go ahead and speak along with me these suffixes: o, ace, a, min, te, usi. And again, o, ace, a, min, te, usi. One more time: o, ace, a, min, te, usi. And now what I'm going to ask you to do is, on your whiteboard, write out o, ace, a, min, te, usi as soon as I remove them here. So I'm going to remove them, and you go ahead and pause and write them down. And it should look something like this. If so, let's go ahead and go in for the high five on 3. 1, 2, 3, boom, high five. And you can correct. And one more time, I'm going to take them away and ask you to write one more time on your whiteboard: o, ace, a, min, te, usi. And again, they look like this. Once more, going in for the high five. 1, 2, 3, boom. And we're going to move down to the primary middle passive endings. So we're going to once again speak these suffixes 3 different times and then write them down: mai, sai, tai, mitha, ste, ntai. And again, mai, sai, tai, mitha, se, ste, ntai. Last time: mai, sai, tai, mitha, ste, ntai. And let's go ahead and write them down. Take one more look at mai, sai, tai, mitha, ste, ntai, and I'm going to take them away. Go ahead and write them down on your whiteboard. They should look like this. If so, going for the high five on 3. 1, 2, 3, boom. And I'm going to take it away one more time. And yet again, it should look like this: mai, sai, tai, mitha, ste, ntai. If your whiteboard looks like this, let's go in for another high five. 1, 2, 3, boom. Way to go. And on to our secondary active suffixes. And a little bit of note here, how I'm going to speak them. If you're looking at my cursor here, we're going to go n, s, and then just a blank, nothing. I'm not going to say anything, but we're going to leave space for that blank. And then min, te, n, or, son. So I'm going to say or and then say son. All right, so let's go ahead and speak this one together 3 times. N, s, min, te, n, or, son. And again, n, s, min, te, n, or, son. Last time: n, s, min, te, n, or, son. I apologize, that one doesn't have quite the rhythm to it as the other ones do. But we're going to go ahead and practice again here, writing down 2 different times these suffixes. So I'm going to go ahead and take it away. And go ahead and self-correct here. If yours looks like this, let's high five. 1, 2, 3, boom. And taking it away one more time. And back up again. If it looks like this, another high five. 1, 2, 3, boom. And our last suffixes, the secondary middle passive suffixes. So let's go ahead and say these together 3 different times. Main, sa, ta, metha, stay, nta. And again, main, sa, ta, metha, stay, nta. And last time. Main, sa, ta, metha, stay, nta. And go ahead and write main, sa, ta, metha, stay, nta. It's going away now. And here is the self-correction. If yours looks like this, let's go for the high five. 1, 2, 3, boom. And last time writing. There it is, main, sa, ta, metha, stay, nta. I'm sure yours looks exactly like this, so let's high five. 1, 2, 3, boom. And I want to show you a couple different ways that I've put these all together in chart form for your reference. So here you see moving from primary active in the top left going down to primary middle passive in the bottom left. So the middle passives on the bottom here, the actives up on top, the primaries on the left, and the secondaries on the right hand side of this chart that puts them all together. And then I give you another one here, and again these are mostly for your reference and for your practice, that this time I have put them all in one column, so that rather than taking the plurals and putting them over to the right, we have the singulars up top, the plurals underneath them, and then going straight down. And then on the right side of each of them, I've given you one example of what these suffixes look like on actual indicative verbs. So in this case, in the present active indicative, in this case, the present middle passive indicative. With the secondary actives, we have the imperfect active indicative. And then with the secondary middle passive, I've given you the imperfect middle passive indicative here. And again, these are not all of the forms that you will find these suffixes on. There's additional indicative verb forms that you'll see these on, but these are to give you an example of what these look like sort of as they actually go on to a verb. And remember that especially with the middle passive endings in the second person singular, you get some changes with the psi and the saw ending because of the different contractions that occur, and those are addressed in each one of the videos that introduce these different suffixes in these different forms. And then so the other thing I've done here is then the same thing where I've given you a whole column, not moving the plurals over to the right, but taken away those the indicative verb forms here so that this is a little bit cleaner. And then lastly, I give you, and I have uploaded this as a separate document to Moodle as well, black on white. So it's easier for you to print off this as a reference for your practice. And I've done the same thing with the forms on the verbs themselves, and then within a column format here without the plurals moved over to the right. And then lastly, for your practice, if you want to not have to write really small on your whiteboard, print out a couple of these to practice these suffixes on in either format that you prefer. So you may find that you prefer just going straight down rather than moving over to the right for the plurals, or you might find this format, sort of the way that these have been presented to you in the lectures, to be more effective. Either one is fine, whichever works better for your own memorization of these suffixes, because one of your tasks for this week is of course to memorize these suffixes and be able to reproduce them. So these are all for your reference there. And I give you those, and congratulations. We're going to do a review in the next video of indicative forms and how to sort of parse out indicative forms and to recognize them. But with this review of the forms of the endings, we have come to our sort of a completion of all the forms of the indicative verbs, a real turning point in the semester, and you should feel very proud of the work that you have done to this point.